Our next session explores how AI is transforming the world of work. Leading the conversation is Tudor Havrilyuk, who spent years in Silicon Valley leading people teams at Meta, Salesforce, and Logitech. Today, Tudor advises and invests in some of Europe's most exciting AI-first work tech startups. We're also thrilled to share that Tudor is our newest Felix Capital venture advisor. He's joined by the founders of two leading Felix Capital portfolio companies in workplace AI, both of whom he's working with as an advisor. Chris Bruce, founder of Origin, an AI-native global benefits intelligence platform, helping global employers better understand and optimize their benefits. And Andreas Deneve, CEO of TechWolf, an AI-native platform helping organizations map their skills and build fairer, more dynamic workplaces. Please join me in welcoming Tudor, Chris, and Andreas to the stage.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this first Pulse. I'm super excited to be here, not only because I'm one of the newest Felix venture advisors, but also because I get this front row seat to seeing how AI is transforming a world that I've been in for 25 years. I know I don't look that old, so I'm excited to have today two companies, two founders represented here on this panel that are really transforming this world of how large, medium-sized, and small enterprises are run. And before I jump into the questions, I just want to tell you that these guys really are doing breakthrough work in a space that's been pretty fossilized for many, many years. So you're in truly for a treat. Before we jump into what your companies do, I do think people here would be quite interested to know how you started your founder journeys. How did you end up starting the companies that you're currently running? So we'll start with you, Chris.
Great. Well, thank you. And Antoine, Cedric, I just want to say congratulations on your 10 years. And thank you for being here. And we're delighted to be a Felix portfolio company. My background is that I founded a company called Thompson's Online Benefits, which became Darwin back in 2000 when I was 26. It was a corporate advisor with technology, and we had a pretty rough first 4 or 5 years. We got to 1.4 million after 4 years, and then I very sensibly hired an amazing software engineer as our CTO, and after that things really took off. And in 2006 we won RBS, who strange times used to be the world's biggest bank, to roll out our software globally. After winning RBS, we then won Goldman Sachs, we won Google, we won Apple, and in 2016 we were bought by Mercer, who are the world's biggest global broking consulting firm, for 250 million pounds. I then became an investor and advisor, so I stayed advising Mercer on their tech strategy whilst investing in and being an angel investor, and which I enjoyed, although many investors here, it's harder than it looks. And a couple of things happened. I snapped my Achilles heli skiing in Iceland, and I had my ChatGPT moment. And so having snapped my Achilles, I suddenly realized I couldn't have as much fun as I'd been having. And when I started playing with ChatGPT, I realized it was an inflection point. The world was about to change again, and I felt a desire to be into it. So the bright software engineer I'd brought in back in 2004 that I'd worked with then for 15 years, I called him up and started talking to him about the impact of AI on the global employee benefit software, or the global benefit industry. And one thing led to another, and I'm back now to 16-hour days, and Heathrow Airport being my second home. So my background.
Excellent. Thank you. Andres.
Yeah, I feel like it's tough with you both starting with 25 years ago, because I think I was like lying on my back waiting for my mom to feed me my bubble. So Andreas, co-founder and CEO at TechWolf, started a company out of university, so graduated in 2020, not too long ago, but probably the coolest time to have graduated. So when we started uni, it was right when language models had their first breakthrough moment. So think like ChatGPT, but much more stupid and small, but you could kind of see where it was going. So that was the foundational technology for us. always wanted to start a company. I think when we looked at big problems in the world, I think in most places the way that work is assigned to people. It's based on where you went to school or who you know, rather than what you can do. And I think it's also tied to the fact that most companies actually at scale, they don't understand across the entire company who can do what. So we started building language models that take all the data that companies have on their people and try to come up with a much more objective, accurate view of who can do what.
You're starting already into my second question, so why don't you just keep going? Tell us a little bit about what TechWolf does and what the opportunity that you thought you'd solve for is.
Yeah, so initially the problem that we set out to solve was, okay, large companies, they don't understand the talent that they have. How can we help customers make more out of the people that work there? I think the opportunity today is even much bigger than it was 5 years ago, because with AI and I think with the rate of transformation in the world just being at an all-time high, there's even more pressure for companies to understand their workforce and to transform it. I think on the market side, like AI has amplified the opportunity for us. But the second part of your question, like where can AI shine? I think AI can already do a lot. In our case, if you just look at the physical bounds of the world, like for example, a human, you can read a book in a day. An AI model can read a book in a second. So within the enterprise, think performance management. As a manager, you're exposed to your direct reports only a small fraction of the time that you're actually at work. So you have a highly subjective assessment based on a few data points that you see. You probably have your own biases. Maybe you hear some stories from other people. But language models, they can just outperform humans, not because they're smarter, but because they can process so much more data and are trained on so many more relevant samples. So I think, like for us, AI creates an opportunity in the product, like to build a capability and bring something to these enterprises that they've never had. But for us, it also creates the market itself, like the workforce transformation, the problem that we sell into.
Yeah. Give us for people in the room that maybe don't know much about HR, don't know much about org design, how you build teams, how you staff an organization. Give us a real case study that people can kind of sink their teeth into and understand exactly what TechWolf does.
Yes, so I'll give you two. So one, think global pharmaceutical companies, they have pipelines full of drugs. In the US, the FDA, they look at clinical trials and then they decide, okay, this drug can pass to the next stage or we're going to kill the drug. It's a pretty binary moment because if the drug passes, it means that we need to staff an additional few thousand people on the drug for a bigger clinical trial. If the drug fails, it means that the 3,000 people that are developing that drug, they need to find something else to do. So if you then have a great visibility on the skills of all these people, maybe you can redeploy these 3,000 workers in 1 quarter instead of 1 year, and you can take other drugs to market 1 or 2 quarters faster. So which in pharma translates to millions in bottom line growth. We're now scoping out work with a big semiconductor company in the US, where they are looking at, okay, what's the entire timeline and process cycle of developing new chips, and with AI, where could we cut out work? So how could we, for example, shrink the time it takes us from scratch to develop a new, more efficient chip? How can we shrink that by 20%? And then maybe they are the first to market with chips that have certain compute capabilities compared to the energy cost. So these are things where, and this is something that hasn't happened a lot in the past, where HR problems can actually lead to business outcomes that can have a super significant impact on the trajectories of these businesses.
Absolutely. Chris, tell us about the opportunity that you saw, the problem that you're trying to solve. I know it very, very intimately because I ran that part of HR for so many years, and I know one of the most complicated parts that nobody really talks about is benefits management, especially in a global multinational with thousands of employees with tons of regulations around the world.
I find that if on a Friday night I start talking about employee benefits, I very quickly lose people. So the problem, AI gives us the ability to create brand new business models. So if we look at the problem that we're solving, we go back to when you were at Meta as leading HR, and the CFO starts to ask questions about benefits. So benefits, for those of you who don't know, are the second biggest people cost that an organization's got. So, so the CFO turns around to Tudor and goes, okay, so Tudor, how much are we spending on employee benefits around the world? And Tudor says, I don't have the information. How much value are we getting for this enormous spend? I don't have the information. How much are we spending with brokers and consultants and other vendors, and what are they doing for us? I don't have the answer. And what can we do to optimize this enormous spend? Well, I don't have the answer. So CFO then goes, okay, right, we're going to solve this problem. We're going to, in a world pre-AI, we're going to create a data warehouse of all of the information on our global benefits. But Meta is in 80 countries around the world, and in every country, Meta is providing around 30 different benefits. So around 2,400 benefit programs. And so if Tudor was then to hire this unicorn employee who speaks every language that Meta, the countries are in, has a detailed and understanding of benefits, contracts, insurances in all of these markets, and if that person was then to look to read through all of the documents associated with all of those 2,400 benefit plans, assuming that there's probably 4 different documents, and each document is going to take a couple of hours to read, and some of these documents go on for 700 pages. They're in completely different formats. It's going to take around 20,000 hours. But the reality is that those documents are changing all the time, so it's probably at least double of that. So for that reason, no one's ever been able to answer those 4 questions that I put earlier. With AI, and because we have such strong expertise in benefits, we've been able to build a platform that enables us to do that job in a few weeks. And so as a consequence, we're able to provide the first system of record around benefits. And then we've built an AI-driven system of insight to start answering the questions that the CFO or Tudor may have. And now we're building out AI-driven workflows that then automate and optimize the processes.
Excellent. Actually, the follow-up questions to both of you were around what clients you have. So what kind of clients you already are delivering these solutions for, these AI solutions for. And I'm really curious, because there's a lot of investors in the room, I'm really curious for them to hear that you're already impacting organizations that are very large, very famous, and that you're delivering real results. And so can you give us some examples, ideally with metrics associated with them, you already gave a really good example about pharma, but if there's more, and also name some of your marquee clients, because I think it'd be great interest for the investors in this room.
Great.
Andres,
Yeah.
You want to go first?
And I feel like I'm trailing Chris a little bit, because we were on the phone last week about one of the Magnificent Seven that Chris has closed, but where we are in contracting. I think, so since Felix invested last year, we've grown revenue more than 100%, especially in the US. So companies like T-Mobile, which is, well, they provide the signal, for example, for the iPhone. We also signed Corning. They make the screens for the iPhone. We're signing the companies that help with some of the internal parts of the iPhone. So we're doing a lot in technology. We're doing a lot in semiconductor. We're doing a lot in pharma and life sciences. And I think we're now getting to the point where, to your question about like marquee logos, we're signing customers that make products that we use in our everyday lives. So hopefully next time if I'm here, I can talk about Apple.
Yeah. Good luck.
But Chris can.
Yeah,
can,
Chris.
If he's not under contract or...
Well, you've blown it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've done it on my behalf, which is wonderful, even better. So we took a really unusual approach to how we built the business, in that we had an idea of a problem that we could solve, and I guess the experience of having built a company and then been for many of your guys' shoes in on the investing side is you see so many mistakes being made and you see really good things happening. And when we set the company up, we had an idea of wanting to spend our first year proving the concept of what we were doing. So we did two things. We wanted to make sure that we had product market fit, and we wanted to make sure that we could actually build the technology. And so we sort of did this very audacious thing. We went out to 11 multinationals at the beginning of last year, and they include people like Apple and BP and Pfizer and Comcast, so mega organizations. And we said to them, here are the problems that we think exist in the industry. And if would you be interested in co-creating with us? So effectively signing a 3-year contract, and but you get to co-create the platform with us. And then we would second thing was making sure we could build tech to actually solve the problem we were looking to solve. But obviously AI being so new that there was no evidence that actually we could do it. And so we achieved that last year. And so we then came out of stealth in April this year. And when we came out of stealth, we were then coming out of stealth with an incredible platform with like raving fans as clients, and we'd sort of solved a lot of the issues around. We understood what the go-to-market messaging was and a lot of the ways of working. And so now our clients are big multinationals, and what's some of the other brands that would be good to drop? PepsiCo, I mean a lot. So we're getting up to about 25 big multinationals.
That's pretty impressive. It's very interesting because you never really think, like I said at the beginning of this, you don't think of HR as a place of innovation. And right now it's almost like heads of HR are being shoved into this position to help with the transformation of how organizations are built, how they do work, how they measure work, and how they solve for efficiency, but also for the strategic imperative that the CEO or the CFO give leaders in HR to implement AI. In fact, there are some organizations now where the head of HR is being tasked with reorganizing the IT department, because it's not just about the discrete operations within HR, but also how the whole enterprise operates once AI has been put in. I'm really curious to hear from the stories of your implementations, of working with heads of HR, how these things are panning out, and how HR is being transformed, and what you're seeing this new way of working emerging for all of us, because the future of work is very different in the circumstance where AI and agents are playing such a huge part. Which one of you want to go first? I see both of you nodding.
I'm happy to go. I think there's a lot of complexity associated with the AI transformation, and I think if you're thinking about it for a few minutes, it's very easy to see the opportunity. And I think if you talk to any CEO, they'll see the opportunity in reduced costs or increased efficiency. With a lot of companies, especially the enterprise companies, there's massive second-order benefits that people are not really thinking about or not anticipating. For example, think professional services companies like high-end consulting, where people are like, okay, with AI, we can actually automate or replace a lot of the entry-level jobs. But where are we going to get the people in the mid-level jobs from then 5 years from now, right? Because today, the entire talent pipeline into mid-level jobs are people that are in entry-level jobs. And there's certain skills around collaboration, as a 20-something-year-old being accountable for something for the first time with real consequences. Like for some people, that's a first when they enter the workforce. So, I mean, and I'm pretty sure everybody here had formative years at one point early in their career. So I think these are the things where the actual consequences of transforming workforces and jobs with AI go much, much further than just the tip of the iceberg, which is productivity gain in the short term. There's big, I think, societal questions tied to it too, where, I mean, the global workforce is also pretty much the global consumer force, right? It's the revenue that a lot of companies and brands make is money that other people earn through salary. So if we cut these people out, like what happens? So these are a lot of people-related questions that I think are bigger than just the functional question of how do we automate this job away. And that, for me, all build up to the real transformation where chief people officers and HR leadership teams are now trying to lead that discussion. There's a social responsibility element, there's a sustainability element. So I think that's one of the reasons where, like, once people start unpacking the opportunity, they see that it's actually much more complex, and there's a role there to play for HR. The second thing is that even in the organizations where the transformation will be a little bit milder, that a lot of the actions that need to be taken fall back into the bucket of HR processes. For example, with our product, a lot of our customers can see what the upskilling opportunity is, where like on-the-job upskilling can be directly tied to higher productivity. But then the question is, okay, how do we then actually upskill these workers, which you call the head of learning for again. So yeah, I think to summarize, I think the actually like transforming a big enterprise with AI in a sustainable way where you don't break other parts of the business like talent pipelines into other roles, and then actually executing on it. I think they both rely on HR, which makes like their spend power, their power in the enterprise just rise and rise and rise.
Finally getting that strategic seat at the table, right?
Tudor, you were just 25 years too early.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm here to witness this, and I'm very excited about it. Chris, do you want to answer my question?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that's going to add on to it. So I think, I guess what I'm seeing is that CHROs really they want to be able to demonstrate that they are using AI to drive efficiencies within their organization. And so if there is a trusted way of doing it, and particularly if it's high impact but low risk, then there is a real appetite. And I think that companies like ours are benefiting from this new wave. And I am amazed. I'm absolutely amazed by the different types of organizations who are working with us so quickly when we're such a young company. But a couple of things I was going to cover off that Andreas, you spoke about, which is when think about the org design. So as an AI native company, we've designed things really differently. And Tudor, you and I have had some conversations about this in that the normal org design is senior people going down to more junior people. And we've actually designed the organization more like an hourglass. So we've got 65 people, and probably 75% of them are really senior with strong domain expertise. And then we've got a layer of really AI native tech tools. And then we've got a dozen graduates we call them in the academy, who are there basically to do every job that needs to be done in the organization, but to do it from an AI first perspective. And they're targeted with being creatively lazy. And when I go and watch this team working, I see that they work and they think in a completely different way to the way that I could ever work. And I'm more concerned for the people who are sort of in the middle, as with this sort of AI native group coming through. So it'll be fascinating to see.
Fascinating. Well, we don't have time to unpack the societal questions that you raised, which I think would be a fascinating follow-up conversation. But I do want to thank both of you for your stories and sharing this really incredible work that you're doing, transforming HR, giving basically a strategic role for the HR organization through the companies that you've founded and helping us understand the extreme speed at which things are changing in the world of work. Thank you for coming tonight.